Hello and welcome to SEC Power Rankings. It is week 9. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Jay Greason, or after a rousing start here, Graham Doty and Alfred Esmond to do Power Rankings heading into week 9. We start at the bottom, and boy, this team had a rough weekend. It gave up 51 runs in 16 pitching innings. The Missouri Tigers, tough season in Columbia, getting tougher, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting challenging. I mean, what do you say about Missouri? So, we kind of touched on it a little bit last night. Maybe they'll get a game or two here or there the rest of the way, but it's just mainly what gets them in these holes is the pitching. The pitching is by far their big issue. And then another thing we didn't touch on last night, one of their best hitter, Jackson Lovich, did not go over the weekend. So he was unavailable.
Yeah. Moving on to number 15, South Carolina. Alfred, a resident South Carolina native and expert. The injuries are starting to pile up for the Gamecocks, and they had a shot. They got the opener against Pico Cone, but couldn't finish.
Yeah, tough stuff for South Carolina so far in SEC play. Long gone are the days of 3-loss non-conference play for the Gamecocks where things are riding a little high. SEC play has sort of mellowed these guys out right at the bottom with Missouri. 2 wins in SEC play as we're well into April, and the road does not get easier for them. They go to College Station this weekend, and then they follow that up by playing Ole Miss at home. 2 tough opponents, and I'll just say, guys, I don't think those are wins in those series for South Carolina as of right now. So we'll see, but got to find some holes to plug, to say the least, and a lot of that is because of injuries.
Yeah, speaking of injuries, we got some of that in number 14, Florida. Has just gotten really hit on the pitching side. No Pierce Coppola again this weekend. A couple of lineup mainstays done for the year. The Gators did not hit much this week. Actually, they hit some. They just couldn't get runners on, or they couldn't get runners in. And the Gators swept by Vanderbilt this weekend. Alfred, I guess the hope for Florida starts with the schedule. You got Missouri this weekend, Mississippi State next weekend. Before you go to Arkansas, then South Carolina. So 3 of the bottom 4 teams in the league not named Florida, spoiler alert, up on the schedule here.
Yes, and then after that, at Texas and then Alabama. So really, I don't know if you guys are with me on this. This next stretch of weekend series are their do or die, right? At this point, at 1-11 in SEC play. We say it like it's a broken clock. It's a math problem at this point, and the math would mean wins, in this next stretch of games that they have, and they can easily do it. I mean, I think it's pretty, educated to say that they'll win against Missouri. However, also some tough midweeks, like we said. Florida State during this midweek, Stetson a little bit after that, always a tough game for them. Injuries have really hurt this team. I mean, as much as it's hurt South Carolina, not having one of your workhorses in Pierce Coppola in your rotation pretty much this whole year has hurt you. A lot of position players that are good for depth have been out as well. And this weekend, I think the frustration really was let loose. If you, if you watched Kevin O'Sullivan at all on TV, you saw that. So hard to believe that this Florida team is back here in 14th in these power rankings right now. Not expected. This was a team that I expected to hang around in the top 5 pretty much the whole season, but here we are.
Chris, I think your point about hitting the baseball but not moving guys around, I mean, how powerful is this number? They were 4 for 29 with runners in scoring position against Vanderbilt. Yeah, that's about a 135 average, and 0 for 5 with the bases loaded. So, I mean, this game is such a game of inertia that when it's going good, it feels like everybody's throwing a beach ball. And when it's going bad, it feels like they're shooting a BB. And The interesting thing is it's a little bit of a dichotomy because I think Alfred's 100% right. Kevin O'Sullivan is just infuriated with what's going on right now. But he also has the opportunity to look up and say, hey, guys, all we got to do is get to 13. And we got to the semifinals just last year.
Yeah. If they're going to make the run, the next few days and weeks are where they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Very important.
Yeah.
One final note from me. Very important. It's a tie. Them and Florida State. That series is tied. And for RPI's sake, winning that Florida State series for the season would be huge for them for the NCAA tournament. So the game this week, this is as big as midweeks get, including other games like Auburn, Georgia Tech's up there. But I would argue because of that, this is very vital for Florida to get this win against them in Gainesville this week.
Yeah, and don't forget Florida was, well, they weren't in this spot a year ago, but they had to battle late. They had to win some games in Hoover just to get to the NCAA tournament. Like, there's a world in which if they can get there, it can reset the pitching, can get Coppola healthy, Clemente's pitching well, Peterson's pitching well, they can be dangerous. No, they don't have Jack Caglione. That's kind of an important part that's missing from a year ago. But point is, with some winnable series on the table coming up, don't count them out.
And we know the NCAA selection committees have a sense of humor, but it'd be pretty boss sauce to send like 3-seeded A&M and 4-seeded Florida to like Oregon State and just load that thing up to where everybody's ticked off.
Well, if Florida's getting in, they're not going to be a 4, but if one of them can jump to a 2, and Florida's RPI is still in the 40s. A&M, we'll get to them because, boy, talk about interesting RPI moves. They're coming up here in a minute. Mississippi State, a team that doesn't seem to be able to catch a lot of breaks in close games. 1, 2, not fielding very well. 3, has also probably now faced the tougher portion of the schedule. So also, as with Florida, some winnable series coming up. Graham, what are the vibes currently in Starkville?
Yeah, well, you touch on the breaks, and that is a big part. Like they really didn't get any breaks up to this point of the season until this past weekend, and then like they dropped. Like, who had them losing Friday night with Pico on the mound? Like, not a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then they just hit the flip of the switch, and then they just play lights out games 2 and game 3. So this could be a pivotal moment for them moving forward. They got one of the easier schedules in the SEC. So, guys, all it takes is one positive weekend, and this is a game of just confidence and momentum. And once you get it, you can be dangerous.
And to that confidence point, Graham, you lose Friday night with the best pitcher in the league, and you still take 2 of 3. I mean, that's a building block, in my opinion. And so I think their best baseball's in front of them. I don't know how good they are. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be standing come that penultimate Friday in Hoover, and yes, I use that entire sentence to get the word penultimate into the conversation. And that's okay. It's okay. My son's a junior in high school. He's going through the ACT prep stuff. We're working on vocabulary. It's all right.
That Auburn education too.
Hey, they don't call it the Harvard of Lee County, Alabama for nothing, my friend.
I'm looking up, and every single remaining opponent on Mississippi State's schedule is in the bottom half of our power rankings. Let me double check that.
Mizzou's one of them.
They had an easy schedule overall heading into the year, so that is going to help them a ton. For me this weekend, you guys were spot on, right? Losing with Pico Cone was not what you expected, but then the next 2 games were a tale of 2 tapes in a good way. The middle game was offense. It exploded. And then the third game to win the series, the pitching was lights out. You shut out South Carolina to put the cherry on top of the cake. So great stuff from Mississippi State. Hopefully a sign of things to come.
Alfred, I take that back. We get into the coaching profession if you're going to use a tale of 2 tapes and the cherry on top of the cake in the same sentence, my man. I mean, next thing you know, you're going to say, well, hey, we're going to play like we practice. We're going to have to give 110%. And this game's about blocking and tackling.
Very, very good press conference vocabulary.
Yeah, cliches. Learn your cliches. Nuclear.
By the way,
oh brother,
correction. I'll
I
take that
believe
back.
in love winning. It's better than losing.
Yeah. I was incorrect. They do have some top half teams left on the schedule, but nobody top 5. So anyway, going to get easier. Where are we? You're now up to number 12, Texas A&M. Boy, I don't think any of us had Texas A&M moving up the power rankings when we did this a week ago. This week,
no. I remember 2 weeks ago, Jay, you left them for dead. I mean, I think a lot of people did, and then again, what a weird weekend. They get run ruled and no hit game 1, and then they just absolutely dominate the doubleheader on the road at Tennessee. And if you listen to Michael Early, like his press conference and like his interview today with Tex Ags, guys, he sounds like a totally brand new person. So it just feels like the weight of the world potentially lifted off their shoulders after this weekend.
Very they get a warm-up series, I'll call it, with South Carolina, and then they have a big test after that with Arkansas and Baum-Walker Stadium. But nonetheless, I feel like a series win at Tennessee in a national title rematch moves you up 2 spots like it did. I think if the hitting played like it did the second 2 or the 2 games to end this series to win it, they're a team that can shoot way up these power rankings if that keeps up. So watch out for Texas A&M. That might have been the spark they needed.
Graham, I didn't get to hear the press conference. Did he shed any light on what happened between Friday night and the rest of the weekend?
I mean, not really. Just kind of what Jay was touching on. Just a bunch of cliches. I mean, it was just like didn't go our way. Then we show up at the ballpark. Good thing about baseball, that kind of thing. It's a new day, a new game, all that stuff. So, I mean, he really didn't. Even if something did happen, I don't think that he would, give it out at this point in the season. It was just, this is a talented team, and we just took care of business. But I mean, he like two weeks ago, he sounded like, if you watched any of his stuff, like he just sounded so sad. And I mean, I can't imagine how much pressure that he's been under. And then like today, just a new human being.
They scored 26 runs in 17 offensive innings against what had been the number 1 pitching staff and defense in the league. Yeah, crazy stuff. Let's see, number 11, Oklahoma, which I think this is the lowest the Sooners have been all weekend. Weird weekend hosting LSU. It was windy. It was cold. It was, I think, wind chills 30s, maybe even the 20s, wind blowing in pretty hard. And stuff that Oklahoma's kind of used to, not maybe as much LSU, but LSU sweeps the series. And now Oklahoma looking up at some other teams in our rankings this week.
Well, Chris, if Broadway's taught us anything, it's Oklahoma where the wind blows in off the plains. But, all right, go ahead and check off on your bingo card if you had a Broadway musical making a reference here today. All right. In the over-under context, because I love conversations like this, does Oklahoma finish higher than 11 in this league? Because I say no. I mean, I think there's a couple of people behind them who could pass them, because they are not making the most of Kyson Witherspoon. And, I mean, I don't know. Maybe his eyes are looking towards bigger paychecks. Maybe, I don't know. And you're right. Sometimes it just stinks to play baseball when it's that cold. It just stinks. Mm-hmm. And it robs you of one of your handful of home field advantages. I mean, I didn't see any of the highlights, but there's probably, when it's wind chills in the 20s, there ain't nobody but girlfriends and parents sitting out there in the stands, people.
That's right.
And so, I mean, maybe this is an outlier, but if I set over-under in our final power rankings before they go to Hoover, over-under for Oklahoma at 11, you going over or under?
I got it. What's the rest of the schedule look like?
Rest of the schedule in order: Vanderbilt at home, at Missouri, at Georgia, Ole Miss at home, at Kentucky, Texas at home.
Jeez Louise. Holy smokes.
Well, at least they get
But
Missouri.
You got a Missouri in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it starts with, if they want to, get a little better. One thing they got to do, they got to find a way to make Kyson Witherspoon an anchor again. And that way is to have some offense when he's on the mound. This is an eye-popping stat to me, guys. I don't know if you've looked at the conference rankings for statistically heading into today, but they have the same team batting average right now as Missouri at the bottom of the SEC as a team. If I got that right on the SEC's website, that's the first thing that stands out. That's not going to get it done no matter how good Kyson Witherspoon or your pitching is. And that's what LSU pitching does to you, right? In really cold weather. That tends to be the case. And I think they just got dismantled with that this weekend. But I think there's winnable SEC series in there. The key to it is this next stretch of Vanderbilt at home and then at Missouri. I think if they could find a way to get a lot of momentum in those next two series, they'll be okay. But man, I think even with the way Vanderbilt's pitched at times this year, I think there's a chance you see something like that again this upcoming weekend. So the hitting's going to be key. And another tough midweek game. They play Dallas Baptist before they get Vanderbilt, and Dallas Baptist gave it to them the last time they played. So we'll see how that works out. And Dallas Baptist is needing a win too. They were just in a dogfight with Western Kentucky over the weekend in a series. So we'll see how it works out. For me, it starts with hitting, though. If you have the same batting average, no offense to Missouri, I'm sorry, but if you have the same,
no, it is offense to Missouri.
It's
too 100% offense to Missouri.
I'm too kind for that.
Hit their butt with either hand. That's fine. It is what it is. But if you're going to say you got the same batting average as Missouri, you're not getting it done. That is offense to Missouri. It's okay.
Right.
It's what we do for a living, Alfred. It's what we do.
What Jay said, offense to Missouri here. If you have the same batting average as Missouri, if you're Oklahoma, it's not getting it done. It won't get it done in pretty much every SEC series outside of playing them. So that's
you're
one
my
thing.
Boy, Blue. You're my boy.
Right.
You're my boy, Blue.
That's one thing you got to look for.
Footnote on Witherspoon, they have lost the last 3 series openers. In those, they scored 1 run off Pico Conan Company, scored 6 off, I think that would have been Zane Adams starting that one for Alabama. And then, of course, the great Kate Anderson game that we'll get to later. So they've actually had more luck later in the weekend as the pitching lightened up, but they're also giving up more runs on that stage too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, to your question, Jay, is push an option?
Push can be. This would then be the high water mark, because I don't see a whole lot of teams 10 and higher struggling that much. And I feel like I'm the Scream Machine at Six Flags. I'm such a roller coaster on the Aggies, but would it shock me if the Aggies blow by this Oklahoma bunch? Goodness, no.
Well, let's get into team number 10, and I'll give you a little bit more detailed answer on mine. Team 10 is Kentucky, which took one against A&M last week and had a dogfight with Ole Miss, 3 games that went down right to the last minute. Before we get into Kentucky, here's what I'm thinking. Okay, Oklahoma at 11. I think A&M has a shot to pass Oklahoma. I think Mississippi State does too, frankly. I think they can climb Oklahoma, can climb Kentucky. They'll have a series against the Cats next to last weekend of the year. I don't see Oklahoma breaking into that top 9, though.
Well, I mean, I think of all the teams that we've had a finger on the pulse, Missouri's the easiest, offense attendant. And I think the conversation about the Wildcats has been probably as spot on as any. I mean, I'm sorry, I called them the Wildcats. After the last 2 weekends, we need to call them the Wild Chippies, because that bunch, whoo, they'll cuss with you. I mean, that's like a team full of Brian McCanns, but bizarro Brian McCanns. They're going to do the dance, and they're going to throw double finger middle salutes at everybody. And hey, God bless you, man. Whatever galvanizes your dugout.
Yeah, the Kentucky aspect of it, to me, the difference between them and Oklahoma, Kentucky, they can just hit a little bit better. I think Oklahoma has the better starting rotation, but Kentucky, they're just all about getting on base and manufacturing runs. and just the schedule too. If I remember correctly from what Alfred was saying last night, Kentucky's got a brutal stretch coming up here as well. So, like, and to me also the difference is Kentucky has done this the last 2 years. Like, this is all brand new to Oklahoma this season. You know, this is their first time to go through this gauntlet.
That's a real good point.
Yeah. Frustrating weekend for them, right? I mean, you were in all these games and you come out with a series loss, and you have Ben Cleaver go out there, he gets 11 strikeouts, you lose that game. You hit very well in that middle game and you lose that one as well. So yeah, you kind of shrug this one off the shoulders if you're Kentucky, and you move because, like you said, you have Texas and then Tennessee on the horizon in your next 2 weekend matchups. So really going to have to find a way to scrape wins together right now if you're Kentucky. It gets a little better for them after that with South Carolina, Mississippi State, but this will be key to get some wins over the stretch. And another guy's tough midweek matchup against Louisville this week for them. Louisville's been going like this if you've been watching. So we got to do some midweek shows. There's some really good games there, including that one.
Right. We'll see what's in the cards.
Mm-hmm.
My take on Kentucky.
Unintended.
I think the starting rotation, if you go 4 deep, which would include Harris. I can't remember if Harris started last weekend and they bumped Rouse or what they did there. But Ben Cleaver, Nick McKay, Scott Rouse, Nate Harris is pretty good. The problem is their bullpen is not what it was a year ago, where they had 8, 9 guys they could throw. They're all quality. They kept the ball on the ground. Didn't put a ton of runners on base. I think that's the difference between this team and last year's. Also, I don't think their lineup top to bottom is as good. They don't get on base throughout the lineup at quite the rate they did a year ago. They still are running a lot, and they got a Cole Hage, who's kind of their version of Waldschmidt this year.
Yeah.
Although Waldschmidt was a little bit more, there was more run to
he
his
had more
game.
power.
But anyway.
Yeah. Ryan could hit
but
the
anyway,
ball over the fence.
Yeah, well, and Hage can too. I think Waldschmidt could just run a little bit better, maybe, than Hage can. Let me double check that. Yeah, he's stolen 11 bases, so there's more there than I thought. But in any case, let's move on to where are we at 9? Alabama. I think this is the lowest Bama's been in a while. Jay, I know you got a little bit of glimpse at that series. Give me your take on the Tide. I know Justin LeBron has been slumping a little bit. I feel like this is still a really balanced team. They've got some good starters, some really good arms out of the bullpen, Blackwood and some guys, and a lot of balance and power throughout that lineup.
I think this is the inverse of the Oklahoma conversation in the power rankings. I think this is the lowest Alabama could be. Because I agree with you, Chris.
Yeah.
I think this is a really balanced team. You've got a superstar hitting in the 2-hole, playing shortstop. You've got multiple pitchers you trust, both in the extended relief and in the rotation. Honestly, I think they got Sam Dutton and jumped on Friday night. If this game had been on a neutral, if this series against Auburn had been on a neutral site, or certainly in Tuscaloosa, completely different story. This was almost 8,000 people, counting standing room only, from what I was told about Friday night. Place going bonkers, still jacked up about the Final Four the following night. Beautiful weather, the whole nine. They got punched in the face Friday night, and it kind of, thank goodness for LeBron, because he hit a walk. He hit a game-winning homer. Otherwise, they would have got swept. Mm-hmm. But this was more about the environment in Auburn than any type of detriment to Alabama, in my opinion.
Yeah. He was the reason, Justin LeBron, they kind of won that middle game and salvaged the series a little bit in Auburn. Their batting average, guys, took a bit of a dip as a team this weekend. They're now down to 13th in the conference heading into today. They're only better than A&M, Oklahoma, and Missouri at 241. It's kind of very weird to say that, considering how they started the year, but SEC play will do that to you over certain stretches. They have, every other team, it seems like I'm talking about, tough midweek matchups coming up. Southern Miss before they play Mississippi State, and then they follow that up with UAB for the next midweek matchup. So some tough games on their schedule. Mississippi State could be a very winnable series for them. So that'll be huge to get that and get their footing back. Not giving up on Alabama, but a tough weekend will put you back a little bit like this.
Graham, before you go, because you mentioned this yesterday when we were talking about it last night, the two guys that they're really counting on to give LeBron protection struggled mightily this weekend. And if teams can start pitching around him, that's going to really hurt.
Yeah. The two guys you're talking about, Will Hodo, who seems like he's been at Bama forever. He went
Bear
one.
Bryant recruited him. Bear Bryant, he was going to be a punter slash outfielder.
Yeah. Hodo 1 for 12 against Auburn, and Cade Snell 2 for 11. LeBron went 3 for 12, by the way. LeBron, the difference is when LeBron gets a hit, it just feels like a big hit, you know? And then, like, really the standout over the weekend offensively for Alabama was Richie Bonamalo. He had 4 hits, couple doubles. So they just need some of their studs just to, you know, get back in the swing of things, which I think they will. It's just a long season, and this happens. Like, everybody goes through stretches like this, and I think Alabama, I think they're too good, too consistent 1 through 9 to just have the offense slump for multiple weeks at a time.
Justin LeBron's at 14 home runs. What did he hit, like 10 in his first 11 games?
I mean, I think he had like 11, like the first 2.5 weeks. I mean, he was just on fire. He was leading the country in RBIs.
Yeah. More home runs than the quarterback on prom night.
Wow. Lost my train of thought there. Anyway, Alabama number 9 in our power rankings and number 9 nationally in the RPI. That just tells you what league we're in.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Number 8 Vanderbilt had a really good week in addition to taking 3 at Florida, beat Western Kentucky. Alfred, you talked about them going to Dallas Baptist and taking a series. Vanderbilt beat them in the midweek. So good week for the Commodores. Who defensively and pitching-wise just aced the weekend. Hitting is still going to be an issue for them. Just not a lot of pop in the lineup, although they did get 4 bombs down in Gainesville, so there's that. But good week for Vandy, guys.
Very good. First ever sweep in Gainesville. Thumbs up to that for Vandy. And you took advantage of Florida mistakes, especially that third game when you beat them 11-3. Pitching can be their anchor. Really, I feel like they started getting talked about way more right before they played Arkansas, when their pitching kind of took a shot, a shot of adrenaline in the arm, which was great. Arkansas, did expose that last weekend, but nonetheless, it kind of, was the case again. And, that's a really good win against Western Kentucky you had in the midweek, and then you carry that into Gainesville, which is nice to see. Their schedule going forward, they're going to Norman to play Oklahoma, and then they'll be back at home playing Georgia. So if you want your pitching to get right, Oklahoma might be a good series for that, because you'll need it the weekend after when Georgia comes to Nashville.
Mm-hmm. I got to tip the visor to you, Alfred, because not a lot of people are going to put 2 and 2 together. They understand that I'm going to make terrible jokes and as many puns as I can, and that's fine. But you said for the Commodores, the pitching could be the anchor.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
That was pretty crafty, my friend.
Yes. I'm sure all the Vandy fans love that. I'm sure they love it.
Well, see, hey, if they heckle you about it, say, no, I meant that as like the anchor you can build around. That right. You're settling your shit. See, anchor is a great phrase. You could go pro, con, pro. I mean, no, that's tremendous.
There you go.
Just no whistling puns. Okay?
Anchor down is a conflicting phrase. Yeah, well, let's stay out of the whistlers. That's good. Lord, that drives me bananas.
Anchor down is kind of it's not in black and gold.
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
Dang.
Yeah. Well,
dude, anyway, he's the mashed potatoes guy from the back of the PGA tee box. With the guy, mashed potatoes, or whoever hits a tee ball down the middle. Okay, great. Really?
Yeah.
Now you're texting your buddies going, did you hear me at the Texas Valero Open? How cool is that? No, you're adult, man. You're adult. Yeah. Period.
Yeah. Been a decade of that now. I'm kind of over it.
I don't know how you do it, Chris. I really don't.
Yeah. It's background noise at this point. But anyway.
I feel bad for
Let's see.
Whistler's mother. Literary
Right. Auburn kind of gets here not by default, but kind of on basis of who it's beaten. Has beaten the two teams just behind it. Lost that
Let me
series
start
to
here,
Georgia.
Chris, because
Anyway,
you can get back to the schedule, but the same conversation we had with Alabama and Oklahoma, this feels like the apex of where Auburn can be in this league, right?
Meaning
Probably.
like the best they can do.
Like seventh is, if they get the 7th seed, then that's an overwhelmingly success. Because from Ole Miss on up, I think all 6 of the teams we're going to talk about here in the next 25 plus minutes have more talent than Auburn.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
I would agree with that. And I mean, Auburn, like 7th in the SEC, that still means you're one of the best teams in the country.
Well, it means you're hosting.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. It means you're hosting, maybe not a national seed, but they're in a good spot to at least make the super regionals.
That'd be, it's a plus too, considering they didn't make Hoover last year, to being 7th in the SEC. You have that as well.
I would push back on all 7 teams in front of them having more talent than Auburn. Now, I might I think there's a couple teams behind them that are more talented. I think Vanderbilt might be more talented. I think A&M is more talented.
Yeah.
But that's been an unusual. I think Auburn, here's the thing, Jay. A lot of their talent is young. Like their lineup has got a lot of freshmen in it. College baseball world is just starting to know who these guys are. I mean, you got Terrell, you got Blue, you've got
Freilich.
Rimbert, Freilich. I mean, Butch Thompson's freshman class is playing up to the standard and then some. Like you see a lot of elite freshmen who come in who end up being first-round draft picks and struggle the first year. Their guys are all getting it done. So I think Auburn, and I might even, oh boy, Georgia's such a weird team. We'll get to them in a minute. But I think if you're just saying like future major league
you're not
talent,
about to say that you think Auburn's got more talent than Georgia, do you?
They
may be a little bit better.
Chris, Georgia handled them earlier, like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you're going to say where does the talent get eventually, like how many of these guys are playing Major League Ball 10 years from now, which is a different argument than how good are they now. Does that make sense?
No, it's complete. Yeah, and they're both fun arguments. I mean,
yeah,
because you're right. There are a couple of Auburn freshmen, especially in the outfield. Those dudes are gazelles. I mean, they look the part. And you know what they say? You don't have to be the fastest gazelle. You just can't be the slowest.
Yeah.
Right.
The reason I say that, and I'm not taking anything away from Georgia. In any other environment, a lot of these guys would be slugging it out in single A right now.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia's a lot older than Auburn in the lineup. That's what I do not for a second think that Auburn's a better team than Georgia right now. But I'm just it's interesting when you do not see a lineup constructed like Auburn's very much, where you're very reliant on freshmen
right
this time of the year, and those guys are delivering.
I think it says a lot of just how invested Auburn is right now in baseball. The AD really cares about college baseball. And I mean, the head coach has been doing this forever in the SEC and Butch Thompson. So stadium renovations, it just seems like Auburn is pretty invested. And I mean, we're seeing the results of that.
And the other part of that is those freshmen, because Chris, and I'm going to go back to when you introduced me and called me Jay Gresham. I'm just happy to be joined by former Florida quarterback Chris Leak. And we can get to the bottom of this. Oh, truly, though, when you've got those young kids, the thing that has really allowed Auburn to play better is their first-round dude is hitting like a first-round dude now, and that's Ike Irish. So all those other kids can look at that guy hitting in the 3, 4, 5 hole and mashing, and they go, okay, all right, deep breath. See, I think that's helped it with Texas A&M. When Chase started hitting, A&M all remembered that they're A&M.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing with Auburn. Their Friday night ace is pitching like an ace with a capital A. Mm-hmm. They have lost one series opener all year, and that was Georgia at Georgia, and still they lost that one 4-1. And I don't know that anybody's held Georgia to 4 runs in Athens very often this year. So that's kind of what I like about it. When you've got a guy that's durable and your lineup is balanced, I think that's a really good team. Is it Georgia? No. They do not have the fireworks top to bottom, but they are a really good team, a solid team. Also, I guess the Snow thing's something to watch. He had a concussion from getting hit in the face. He was playing pretty well. That they could use him back. So,
yeah.
Let's see. We are at 6. Ole Miss. Graham, good weekend for the Rebels, going up to Lexington and winning a place that's tough to win, a team that's tough to face, a team that can really press you defensively. Thought Ole Miss handled the spot pretty well.
Really did. And to me, what made this past weekend so impressive is the weaknesses of this Ole Miss team, at least up to this point of the season, was why Ole Miss won in Lexington. The bullpen pitching and then the defense. If the bullpen wasn't as good as it was over the weekend, Ole Miss does not win that series. If the defense wasn't as good, Ole Miss certainly does not win this. I think if you polled Ole Miss fans, like, everybody would be pretty pleasantly surprised. I mean, Ole Miss is 6th in the country. Again, do I think Ole Miss is at the level of some of the top 3 to 5 teams in the SEC? I mean, I don't, but this is just an Ole Miss team, not the most talented team that Mike Bianco has ever had, but they're just finding ways to win. And I mean, he's Mike Bianco. He's done things differently this season. The new pitching coach has paid off, and then the game plan coming in was we want to attack the portal by bringing in veteran guys that have played over 130 games throughout the course of their career. And that decision has paid off, especially with the outfield positions. So that experience and guys that have played at the Power 4 or SEC level in the past, that is paying dividends big time for Ole Miss.
Yeah, and their hitting is starting to come alive. Off raw average, they're up there in the top 5 of the SEC heading into this week, which is massive when you have a team like Tennessee coming in next weekend that is looking to bounce back and can flat out hit. So big series win for Ole Miss and really, tight games all around all weekend in Lexington. They'll surely take that on the road. You'll take that on the road anywhere in the SEC, but big stuff for the Rebels, based off what happened last year, going 27-29 overall to being, number 6 in the country in April. That's something Ole Miss fans have got to love. So going up the power rankings slowly but surely, it's good stuff from Mike Bianco's team.
Graham, can I ask you a question?
What you got, Jay?
All right. I think we all concur that being able to win baseball games offensively, defensively, trusting your bullpen, that flexibility is going to pay great dividends when we get closer to Memorial Day and beyond. Does Ole Miss have an ace?
I'd say Hunter Elliott by far is the best starting pitcher on the roster. I do think that he's getting you got to remember, he hadn't really pitched in 2 years, so he's coming back health-wise, but also it's a brand new philosophy with the addition of Joel Mangrum, the new pitching coach. I mean, he's been there for 7-8 months in Oxford. And I mean, Hunter Elliott has talked about this a lot over the past few weeks. Like, he's still not comfortable with the new system and just the new changes and adjustments that Joel Mangrum has brought. I do think Elliott has the potential, to be a relatively high draft pick. Unless something drastically changes, I don't think he's a first round guy, but since he's a lefty, I think that he'll be drafted in the first 10 rounds, something like that. But he's a very, very, very good college pitcher. And I mean, he showed that as a true freshman. And I mean, he was preseason all SEC coming into this year. And that just speaks to his ability. And for somebody that hasn't pitched in 2 years, I think what Sam is talking about in the chat right now, this series is going to be super chippy this weekend. Like giving everybody the heads up now between Ole Miss and Tennessee. And a big reason why, obviously, it's just with the Liam Doyle and Andrew Fisher part of it, mostly the Andrew Fisher part of it. If somebody gets ejected, Sam, I would be a little bit surprised just because Mike Bianco is not really that type of guy. Like I'm like, we're going to hit Andrew Fisher, that kind of thing. Now it's going to be super chippy. Not so much Liam Doyle. I mean, it's going to be the Andrew Fisher part of it. For people that don't know, so Doyle and Fisher, they waited until the very last day to jump in the portal. So they re-signed with Ole Miss. This is the difference between college and professional contracts. So season ended last year, both Doyle and Andrew Fisher, they both re-signed like a new deal to return to Ole Miss, like more money, all that stuff. But since like contracts don't really mean anything in college sports now, so they wait until the last day to jump in the portal. They do it. And then also, like, it's been reported that they called other people, mostly Andrew Fisher, called other people on the Ole Miss team saying, hey, you got to leave Oxford. Not so much you got to come to Knoxville, come to Tennessee, but you just got to leave Oxford. And one of those was Wes Mendez. And if you look at the numbers for Wes Mendez, he's been lights out on the mound at Florida State. That's somebody that Ole Miss could use big time on the roster. So if you're wondering, man, why are Ole Miss fans so angry or mad at Andrew Fisher? It's because he was doing stuff like that.
I hope the first pitch is behind him. I mean, and I don't want to hit anybody because I don't. But you want to talk about setting a mushroom cloud of chippiness off that will be the level of intrigue that will be the talk of college baseball. I hope they go Randy Johnson against John Kruk. I mean, it's like 7 feet over his head, and everybody goes, "What? Here we go."
Yeah. But the weird thing is you don't see that in college baseball almost ever.
But you also don't see the NIL and guys allegedly calling back to their former teammates saying, hey, y'all need to leave too. I mean, that screams kind of bitterness as well as, I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. Go get your bag, man. Go get your bag. If you got a bet, if you got more NIL, you've got a finite window to make as much money as you can with your body. And at some point, my cognitive whatever is going to fail, maybe in that one moment, and I'm not going to be able to make money with words. I got to make as much money as I can for my family in that moment. Period. I get it. Hey, if somebody else offered you 1.5 and you thought it was a better situation, hey, no begrudges.
Yeah, but it's important to know, like, even though these guys were at Ole Miss last year, like they're not from Mississippi, and they weren't at Ole Miss from day one. Like they are both on their third school in 3 years. So
and that's fine.
They're kind of like hired mercenaries, you know.
I read a story today about TJ Finley, who the former LSU and Auburn quarterback, is on school 5 in 5 years.
Right.
So I mean, that's all fine, well, and good, but don't call back and then like backstab your own program. Because if that's the true story, that's Bush League to begin with.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that going on. But it's going to be a supercharged emotional series, and I'll be fascinated to see just what it looks like, because there's a lot of storylines as we lose Chris. You got Tennessee coming off losing their first conference series, and then you got Ole Miss. Like, how does Ole Miss handle it emotionally? Like, Tennessee has more talent, but it's in Oxford, and what's it look like emotionally for Ole Miss?
Okay. Are we going to guess? Are we going to guess who is 5 here? Who is 5? Georgia's 5, right?
I don't know. What'd you have, Alfred? I think I had Georgia, and let me look it up.
They might have been 5 for me. Sorry, guys. We're double checking. We lost Chris, and we lost our rhythm.
I had Georgia at 5.
I think I did too. So I think Georgia's going to be 5, and we're not going to have the cool little banner there, but we're going live. So hey, your point guard gets into foul trouble. You still got to get the ball to the floor, Alfred. Come on now.
Exactly.
I mean, hey, you and I talked about, hey, you got to play 110%. So if this is where we need to talk about what we talked about maybe a couple of weeks ago with what you said, Graham, because when styles make fights, theoretically, this is Sugar Ray Leonard knocking out Mike Tyson. Counterpuncher, pitch, knocking the heavyweight slugger completely out with just so many good pitches over a weekend of baseball that was hard to even fathom.
He's back.
Chris.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Down on your end. I don't know what's going on here. Are we ready for number 5?
We did.
Drum roll.
We got started. Okay.
Number 5, we got Georgia. So, yeah, interesting team. Georgia got shut down in another team's park. I'm a little – how do I say this? I feel like I wonder how this team is going to handle road environments. I mean, that field just plays to Georgia's skill set. Georgia has put up insane numbers in its park the last 2 weekends. Goes to Texas, gets that offense shut down. But Georgia was 6-1 on the road heading into the weekend. So there's that too.
Well, and because you're 100% right, Foley Field is made for you. You're going to have to throw it at everybody's knees because anything that gets up in the jet stream's gone. I mean, ever since they built the varsity in Athens, there's more runs at Foley Field than anybody knows what to do with. But where we're going to go with this, and Chris, I was asking Graham about this, and I want everybody to weigh in on it because it's his theory or his go-to phrase of style makes fights. Was Texas counterpunching and jabbing? Was that Sugar Ray Leonard beating Mike Tyson? Because the heavyweight slugger was forced to bend the knee.
I think it's a fair analogy. I think that's good. I mean, it's the first team that's done this to them all year. So that's just what keeps them or what knocks them back a little bit. I'm totally fine and have no problem with them being a top 5 team in the SEC still. I mean, I know this is a tough weekend, but Texas has done that. They did it to the team that we're going to talk about a little bit ahead of them in our power rankings, and they did it to Georgia again. So, this is just, it didn't go your way this weekend if it's Georgia, but the good news for them, guys, we mentioned how, Chris, you asked how they're going to do on the road. All their good matchups in SEC play are in Foley Field. Like that worked out for them this year. Next week is Arkansas at Foley Field. They go to Nashville, which will be a little bit tough, but then they play A&M. I guess if their hitting keeps up this way at Foley Field. Missouri is one of their road series that they play. So the schedule works out in Georgia's favor as far as when do we play at Foley Field and when do we not. So that's what gives me hope about this team being like, oh, they're going to finish towards the top 5 in the SEC is that. That being said, I don't think there's really a lot you could say if you're Wes Johnson and this team other than, hey, our hitting went cold this weekend and, it's the first time that happened. We're just going to have to adjust to it and get back into it this week. And they certainly can. I know it's a tough weekend matchup with Arkansas, but it's at Foley Field. You have that to your advantage.
Well, and they did bomb Florida in Gainesville. I know the Gators pitching staff has kind of fallen apart, but there's still some talented pieces there. And the other time they were on the road was that first weekend series in North Carolina where it was damp and the wind was blowing in and the scores got held down. So, but yeah, I mean, they scored, 8 runs this weekend at Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah, it begs some questions, I think. But anyway, I still think that's a really good team. They did pitch it better. That's the positive for Georgia. They pitched it better against a pretty good Texas lineup. So even getting swept, they've got that to hang on. Let's get to number 4. Actually, we got a tie for 3. and I'm just going to put them both up here at the same time, LSU and Tennessee, and we can talk about them in whatever order, because we literally had a literal tie in the voting. When the points don't add up, I take it as, let's see how many people voted one team above the other. We were 2-2 on that one too, so we got a deadlock with Tennessee and LSU. And just to tell you, we can settle that one April 25 to 27 in the series in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I think whatever way you guys look at it is LSU did get the sweep over Oklahoma, whereas Tennessee lost. So that's the case for LSU being ahead. Although, I harped on last night that I don't really put a lot of stock into that A&M series. If you're Tennessee, I mean, it was Saturday's doubleheader was strange to say the least, right? If you're them, considering you hit the Aggies on or in Friday's game. So it's kind of weird. I think its high is somewhat warranted here. It's just whatever way you look at it. I'll start with LSU though. Cade Anderson had probably the best pitching performance in college baseball with his start on Friday. 14 strikeouts, complete game shutout of the Sooners to open the series. And that just set the tone the rest of the way. The middle game was just all offense for LSU. Oklahoma pitching had no answer for them. And then that third game when they won 3-2 was just, shut down pitching all around from them. And they did just enough to get by the Sooners. But nonetheless, shout out to the Tigers for kind of going into Norman for the first time for a weekend series and getting that done. Very impressive. And as for Tennessee, like I've said it a million times already, I'll say it one more time. You had your great first game, no hitting them. It was kind of like, oh, they're doing what they've done all year. And then it went awry on Saturday. So that's the case really to keep them up here in the top three, is that it's like, we're going to take Saturday and throw it in the garbage, to be quite honest, based on what they've done this year. So I'm pretty sure Tony Vitello likes this for his team. He probably likes that they're not number one anymore for us or for D1 baseball. Now they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, maybe heading into Ole Miss. So we'll see how that works out for them. But yeah, that's kind of the tail of the tape for me. I used it again on these two teams being tied at third.
Yeah, I was looking at D1 baseball too. Tennessee dropped to 5 this week?
Mm-hmm. I think
this came out this morning. I didn't check it till we started this. Yeah, they go Arkansas 1, Texas 2, LSU 3, Clemson 4, Tennessee 5, Ole Miss 6, by the way, followed by Georgia. Good grief.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of movement at the top. By the way, I've seen Clemson in person. Give me Tennessee over Clemson any day. So for me, I guess I'll start with LSU. Their pitching is so good, and we know how good they are offensively. LSU is going to be a round where LSU will be pretty much all season long, and unless the wheels just drastically fall off. So very impressed with LSU. Their first trip to Norman, they handle business pretty easily. And then for Tennessee, guys, we know that they're talented, and this could be the best thing to ever happen to Tennessee. This could be a turning point in the season for them. I'm not really worried about Tennessee. I'm just fascinated. This Tennessee Ole Miss series this weekend in Oxford is just going to be one to watch. So many different storylines for both teams, and then just with the transfers from Ole Miss and Tennessee. So just what do they respond? Again, Tony, I watched his post-game press conference. He kind of chalked it up to the first doubleheader that Tennessee has played this season. And then, his words, not mine. He said Tennessee is not the most talented team in the country, but they're still crazy talented. So I think Tennessee is going to be just fine. But what does it look like in Oxford? Like, are the games close, or are they going to be like blowouts? That's what intrigues me. So
I think the thing Sam's bringing up here is the ball that Terrence Keel caught, that they started the home run siren, and I guess the wind helped hold it in to right. 416 to right. And I don't know where it was hit right at the fence. I think it's 310 down the very line. It might have been 315 where he caught it, but that's a heck of a breeze. But that's baseball.
When I saw it, I was like, okay, are they gonna raise the fence in right field moving forward so that
Yeah.
doesn't happen?
No,
So
I don't
that's
think
either
they're
gonna
doing
be a
that.
double off the wall, or are they gonna keep the fence short out there?
Yeah. Just a point. I think if you're going to shorten best pitching foursomes, I think LSU's is the best in the league. It's arbitrary, but the way that Anderson, Ianson, Cowan, and Case and Evans are throwing right now, your top arms become more important as we get to postseason and deciding games in Omaha. And I'm telling you, I think LSU could still wind up one when it's all said and done.
Mainly because of the like Cowan and Evans, who you just touched on. Like they're so valuable. Not only can they go the last inning, but they can stretch it to 4 or 5 if they need to.
Well, and this is what I like, okay? It's not just your top arms, it's how much can they pitch. Anderson's thrown 47 1/3. Ianson's thrown 42 2/3. I bet you that is top 5 in the league for both those guys. If not, it's close.
Mm-hmm.
Evans has thrown 23 1/3 out of the pen. That's a lot. And Cowan's thrown 29 2/3 in that swingman role, which is we know. I mean, they could, if they wanted to, they could put Cowan in the number 3 role right now and have that would be best rotation in the league 1 to 3 case closed, I think. You got some other teams. Arkansas is one that would be in that discussion, but right now LSU guys are pitching better. So I don't know that LSU is going to fall out of the top 3. We'll see. Could be wrong when I mean you got several pretty elite teams at the top. But anyway,
well, this next team's got a fair complaint about don't be awarding somebody 1 through 3 in your starting rotation without talking to us first.
Yeah, well. And I think this one up, I think Texas is a unanimous 2. It has to be based on who it's beaten. Texas has got probably the best twosome of series wins, probably not just in the SEC, but probably in the country.
Yeah.
Having polished off Georgia and LSU. Speaking of top-end starting pitching, Jared Spencer's been really good. Aruga Riojas gives him a swingman who pitched in that third starter role, but he can do a lot of stuff. You know, I kind of keep waiting a little bit for the lineup to fall off without Cade Ballou, or not, excuse me, Max. Cade's the Ballou at Auburn, and they're not related. But anyway, it hasn't happened, which is a testament to them and their player development and the job that Jim Schlossnagle's done in year 1.
You wanna talk about valuable bullpen guys too. Dylan Volantis is a very, very valuable guy. They had him in the starting rotation in certain spots, and I think the Sunday game, of course, Rylan Galvan's the hero of the day for walking it off, but he closed out the final 4 innings of that game, guys. When you can have a bullpen arm that can do that, have fun hitting against that. You know what I mean? That he's going to be someone of note for this team if they go far into the postseason and whatnot. But yeah, Texas is number 2 for us and number 2 for D1 baseball, and much deserved, right? After what they've done the past two weekends, I guess, okay, past 3 weekends, if you go back before Missouri to LSU. But nonetheless, 8 straight SEC wins, 11-1 in their first year in the SEC. You'll take that if you're a Texas fan. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is just Jim Schlossnagle bringing a winning DNA back to Austin. That's been what this is, and it's been great stuff for Texas. Unfortunately, the team ahead of them in number 1 was just ranked ahead of them in our power rankings for pretty much this whole season. So that team's going to be number 1. But, you know, number 2 is just super impressive for this team in the first week of April, you know, in their first year in the league. So shout out to Texas, and we'll keep an eye on the Max Ballou thing and see if this lineup takes a hit eventually because of it. But I said it yesterday, if you have 5 different guys hitting home runs and hitting for power, that's the way you combat that. If they can do that consistently, they could be very well fine without Max Ballou, at least for the time being, until the season's over.
Yeah, the other thing for Texas, which nobody talks about, It doesn't count in the standings, but they do have one more SEC win. If you guys remember, they run ruled Ole Miss in that tournament in Arlington in week 2. So I'm not surprised. Like, this is just what Schlossnagle does. Now he's at a place. They are all in. I mean, they were at A&M under him as well, but now he's at a place with one of the richest histories in college baseball. And I mean, I'm not really surprised at all.
And one of the richest bankrolls. I mean, let's be real clear.
Yeah.
Texas ain't apologizing to nobody in any sport.
Yep.
I would say watch health with them. They've got a top 8 in the pitching staff that's about as good as anybody. Spencer, Riojas, Harrison, Grubbs, Volantis, Cade Bing, Jalen Flores, and Duplantier. After that, it falls off. If they stay healthy, that group can play with anybody. I do get a little concerned if somebody in that group gets hurt, because you got a lot of teams in this league that 9, 10, 11, 12 can pitch it a bit. So we're picking nits, but that's where we are at this league. I mean, it's when the whole top 10 is Clemson and the SEC, basically, that's where we are.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I see Texas Rocks in the chat. Like, to me, the difference between Texas and Arkansas, it's razor thin, but like Texas, they got the best resume, but everything has been at home. Arkansas is going on the road. They got the wins at Ole Miss and they got the wins at Vanderbilt. And that's a slight bump for me for Arkansas over Texas.
And Arkansas doesn't have one of their top 2 or 3 hitters done for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
because these are not AP votes or D1 baseball votes. This is a power poll. It's one of the reasons why I was tempted to put Tennessee still at 2, because I think they're the most powerful team in the league, 1 through 25, 28, whatever you want to say. But I don't think anybody's been more impressive, both in terms of resume and production, than what Arkansas has done. Yes, Texas has 2 great wins, 2 great series, just dominations. But Arkansas looks every bit the most complete team in college baseball to me. Tennessee, Texas, Clemson, hell, the Atlanta Braves included.
I'm going to give you a stat. Don't talk about the Braves, please. I'm trying to forget the first week and a half. Here's where I think things separate. And look, stats can be misleading. You can bomb teams in your old ballpark. And I think Texas's midweek schedule, they play some teams from Texas. They're playing some tougher teams than some of these other teams I'm going to mention are playing. But run differentials per 9 full innings. In other words, don't use averages per game, because you're seeing a lot of teams lose a lot of innings with run rules. Tennessee 7.7, Arkansas 7.8, LSU 6.9, Georgia 5.7, Texas 4.1. Vanderbilt also 3.8, Alabama 4.2. So I think that's the problem. You've got more offensive upside with some of these other teams. Now, look, we don't take that as gospel. We voted Texas 2 in front of Georgia, which Texas beat, and some of Georgia's is inflated, some of Tennessee's is inflated, some of Arkansas's is inflated. I get it. I'm not saying that is a full stop argument. If it was, we would just rank them by the numbers. But if you want to know maybe a little bit of perception of what separates some of these elite teams, and again, but you play them and you line them up, but that's a number that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Moving along to number 1, we get to Arkansas. I think putting Arkansas at 1 was one of the easiest things I did. I think we all went unanimous. Arkansas 1. Speaking of inflated stats, they beat up on Missouri. That was the weirdest series. Were all 3 games cold and wet? I turned on Saturday and it was a down. They were playing through a downpour and it was freezing.
People were bundled. I'll say that.
I don't know what. If you were in that ballpark in the stands, and God bless you. I'm a big baseball fan, but I'm not that big of a fan. That looked like misery. And I think we knew how those games were ending before they even started. So, anyway, Arkansas right now is now per 27 outs, the top scoring team in the league.
Yeah, they number one in the conference in hitting, number 2 in pitching, number 2 in fielding. That's a recipe for success, if you ask me. Also, Texas rocks. I saw your comment. My rebuttal: Arkansas was ahead in power rankings last week of Texas. They're ahead again this week, as both teams moved up. Common sense, pretty much. If I put it to you bluntly,
look, you can rank Texas number 1 in your power rankings. We all
right.
have votes here. That's fine. They mean up there. They're number 1 in the conference. I just there's a little bit more of an offensive ceiling with some of these teams, and Arkansas is also doing it without Gage Wood, with Gackle not pitching well. Like I think there's still a level for Arkansas that we haven't seen.
Yeah. Yes, and honestly, it wasn't even that hard for me to pick between the two, one and two. It took me actually 0 seconds to figure it out. Yeah. So there's that. But I mean, this team is rolling right now. 7 straight wins. Swept Vandy, beat Grambling in the midweek, and then swept Missouri. They do go to Foley Field, which can maybe get a little testy for them. But at this point, guys, they have the offense to compete with anybody, if anyone's watched them at all. So. That's going to be a really good series. I'm really looking forward to that. The pitching too, as much as we say that it's maybe has not been as dominant as it was a year ago with Hagen Smith and whatnot, it's good for second in the league, which is, I don't have nationally the national rankings in front of me, but that's top 10 in the country. Easy, right? Pitching staff wise. So they're still getting it done there. They're the new team to beat, at least for the time being. All due respect to Tennessee and Texas and LSU. But the way that they've kind of popped off on offense has made them a really formidable opponent. And that's going to carry them very far. That can carry them back to Omaha right now. I mean, they're right in for that at this point until something changes. So, yeah, as much as people will say maybe Texas will get, maybe Texas should have been number 1. This took me no time to figure out that this team has played the best in the SEC so far. And after what they've done this weekend, rightfully in the number 1 spot.
If you're going to argue Texas at the 1 spot, the argument would be high-end series wins. Again, Texas has got more than anybody, especially if you include the first weekend. Those are undoubtedly better than Arkansas's. Mm-hmm. So it's just it's like arguing Ken Palm versus resume in basketball. Which are you going to pick?
Yeah.
Anyway, going to be fun to see Texas and Arkansas. I guess they play what 8th weekend of the season.
4th and 5 says in the chat that number 1 is got bad juju. It's a curse. Think about it. A&M and Tennessee.
Yeah.
Well, Tennessee was there for multiple weeks, though, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that's a curse I want. I want that curse.
Yeah.
So I would want that curse, but because Tennessee sat up there forever, I guess maybe it didn't work out for A&M. Right. But other than that, it worked out for Tennessee for most of this year. And I think those guys are a little happy that they're not number 1 now, if you want me to be honest. But I don't know. I'm not superstitious.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think you're gonna see. Let's see. Arkansas's got Georgia this weekend, although that's in Fayetteville. No, wait, that's in Athens, right?
Yes.
That's going to be interesting. I mean, you could see it flip this weekend. Georgia could handle them in that park, although I think Arkansas is more suited to pitch. But, I mean, you don't want any part of Georgia and Athens right now.
No.
You got A&M at home the next weekend, which is where you want that series right now. Then you go to Florida. Okay, you got Texas in Fayetteville coming up here in week 8. So there you go. There's your date, your circle.
Yeah. In Texas rocks. I mean, the good thing about most of these teams, we all play each other. I mean, we still got 18 SEC games left, and Arkansas and Texas, they're both going to host. They'll both be national seeds, and I mean, they're both right now in the driver's seat to make it to Omaha. So that's what makes this league. That's what makes this fun. It's the best players, best coaches, facilities, all that, and we get to watch it all and be fans.
If you're doing national seeds right now, Arkansas is one, Texas is one,
Tennessee's
one. I'm pretty sure. I think LSU's 30-3. They're going to be one. Ole Miss and Georgia are hosting. Vanderbilt's probably hosting too.
So is Auburn. If you're doing them right now, Auburn's hosting.
Yeah, let me check RPI.
Alabama, would they host?
Well, yeah, they're not RPI.
They got more work they need to do.
Yeah, I mean it's irrelevant this time of the year because you got a lot of key series to come, and those can flip outcomes in a heartbeat. But point being, you got maybe 10 SEC teams in the discussion to host at this point. That's also the league this year.
It hinges on not on how the NCAA women's tournament used to do that. Teams with great attendance, they flip the script a little bit. They bid more. They get the benefit of the doubt in situations like that because of the interest in the environment.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we'll be back with some midweek shows. We'll probably do some midweek recaps. We got previews coming up. We may just try to go live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Got to see what's on the slate for basketball at the channel and plan accordingly. But, hey, hit your notifications so you can know when we do go live, and you'll catch that. And you can also catch all these on replays. If you don't get them live at the channel, you can catch them on your podcast feed, wherever you get that. So we hope you'll do that. We know you disagree with us. That's fine. But thanks for being here. That's really what matters. So anyway, for Jay Greason, Graham Doty, Alfred Esmond, I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 16. You've been watching Baseball Power Rankings. God bless you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.